What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and it is that time of the year where I will be sharing with you my own personal list of the top 10 worst films that I saw this year. Now, I would like to state right now that my list may be a bit significant than yours, and there may be one or two movies that you might find a bit questionable, but heck, this is my list, so I'm going to do it by my rules. So, starting off number 10 with a bit subtle, I picked R.I.P.D. R.I.P.D. to me was... It pretty much was a C-class version ripoff of Men in Black that really had a good talent and it had a good concept. It just couldn't execute it as well as it could have been. I don't really believe that Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds really had great chemistry. I really thought the script was a bit predictable at times, and I really hated the use of CGI. I mean, it looked really crappy, really cheap, and just looked cartoony. So it's just the fact that it doesn't have enough originality. And what isn't original, they just seem to be unable to execute it as well as Men in Black did. So that's why it's on this list. Number 9, I picked The Counselor. Now, The Counselor is a prime example of really what happens when you don't have a good script. Now, I'm not going to really put much blame on the director or the actors because in terms of actor-wise, you really had a star-studded cast. You had really amazing talent on the screen. They're just not really given anything to work with. They're just there spouting out lines that don't have any meaning to the plot or to anything in general. And there was one scene in particular with a certain car, but I'm really not going to talk about that. It's just a movie that has no heart, no meaning. And the actors, you can't really rely on your actors alone to carry an entire film. They have a direction of a script, and that's really what just causes it to fail overall. Going into number 8, and I'm sure this is the one that many people are really going to question me on, and I picked Iron Man 3. Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, Iron Man 3 was the most successful movie of the year. Look, I don't care. Going into this film, I asked that it would only not do 3 things. And this movie did all 3 of them. Number 1, I said tone down on the comedy because that was the one thing I hated about Iron Man 2. And it didn't do that. In fact, there was even more comedy in Iron Man 3 to the point where it's not even an action film anymore. It's a comedy film. Number 2, I said this excessively. Please give us a different side of Tony Stark. Look, I understand Robert Downey Jr. will always be the perfect Iron Man, and he pretty much embodies everything that Tony Stark is all about. But I want to see more sides of him than simply the, cocky, every single line I say is a catchphrase or something. Look, the Tony Stark that we had in Iron Man 1 had so many layers, so many different dimensions to him. That's the Tony Stark I want to see. And it seems that since Iron Man 1, Tony Stark as a character has just simply been going downhill for me. I mean, at this point in time, he's my least likable member of the Avengers. I think I like Black Widow and Hawkeye more than Iron Man. And I don't know almost little to jack shit about those characters. And the third thing that they really screwed up on was the Mandarin twist. Don't want to go into depth of what happens by now. It's old news, but Mandarin twist, terrible. Pretty much ruined the whole reason to even go see this movie for me. Going into number 7, I honestly couldn't pick, so I just tied it with 2 completely crappy movies, and I picked A Haunted House and Scary Movie 5. These 2 movies are just suffer from all the same flaws, but for different reasons. Basically, on Haunted House, you pretty much have a guy who really has no talent and is pretty much doing a spoof parody of Paranormal Activity, and not a very good one, if I may say. And heck, I've never even seen Paranormal Activity, so it fails on that number. And on Scary Movie 5, pretty much all it is simply trying to cash in on a brand name. And the series, for me, really hasn't been relevant since Scary Movie 3, so you basically are trying to breathe in life to a dead franchise, or a dead concept, for that matter. Going into number 6 is a movie I did not pay to see this movie, and I did not even bother to review it. I just wanted a final confirmation that there was no hope for this type of franchise, and that was Tyler Perry's A Madea Christmas. Listen, I will give Tyler Perry a pass with maybe the first 2 Madea movies. They're okay, but I'm sick and tired of seeing him do this stupid formula in different locations. It's practically the same damn film, just in a different scenario. And they felt the need to throw in a redneck Larry the Cable Guy to spice things up, and it ended up just being worse. I'm not a fan of either one of these 2 guys, whether it's Tyler Perry or Larry the Cable Guy, whatever the hell his name is. So to put them in one movie together just made it twice as annoying. Going into number 5 was a movie I actually thought would be an interesting concept, and that was The Incredible Burt Burt Wonderstone. Now, me coming from Vegas, you can understand that, heck, I'm actually a bit of a fan of these type of magic shows that we have here in Vegas. And I simply thought that this was just going to be like kind of a spoof, kind of comedy version of what would happen if you put Chris Angel taking on Siegfried and Roy, since I've actually had a chance to see both of those shows. And that wasn't at all what happened here. It was a complete disaster. Jim Carrey was completely wasted. Steve Carell was just not even likable at this point. He was kind of like, and this is the guy we were supposed to cheer with. I mean, the guy is an asshole for the entire length of the movie up until like the last 10 minutes. And then what they do at the end with the whole magic trick twist was just, it just didn't work for me. Going into number 4 was, I believe, one of the biggest bombs of the year, and that was The Lone Ranger. Look, this is coming from the people that make the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Look, you can't use this formula with everything, and this movie proved it. If you're going to try to breathe in life to an old franchise like The Lone Ranger, you can't use the Pirates of the Caribbean formula. You need to come up with something completely different for another completely different environment. And I think, honestly, the casting of Johnny Depp as the character Tonto, probably the most iconic Indian character in cinema or just, you know, entertainment television history, to have him cast as that character was almost as bad as casting Johnny Depp as Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which for me was his absolute worst performance of his entire career, at least for me. Going into number 3 is After Earth. Listen, Will Smith, this is... I think we can clarify at this point that Jaden Smith will never be the actor that his father was, and I'm just sick and tired of him trying at this point. I mean, I'm not even counting the fact that M. Night Shyamalan clearly is not a very good director anymore, and I will state that it was better than The Last Airbender, but that's not saying much. This movie just simply has a concept that's just not very innovative. The CG was terrible at times. The whole pacing was ridiculous. Will Smith pretty much, I'm not even sure if he was really acting. He was just kind of just sitting there like he was either on drugs or just bored or didn't want to be there, hoping that his son, Jaden Smith, could carry a whole movie on his shoulders when he clearly can't. He is not a leading man, so stop trying to force him on us. It's not going to work. Number 2 is a movie which I'm actually quite shocked that this happened, and that is A Good Day to Die Hard. I never thought I would see one of my all-time favorite franchises hit this low in terms of forgetting everything that made the franchise what it is. And I'm sincerely disappointed that Bruce Willis pretty much did something I didn't even think was possible. He pretty much screwed up the John McClane character, and I don't understand how that happened. I mean, did Bruce Willis read the script and understand exactly what his character is doing and know that this is something that his character would not do, despite the fact that he's already played this character 4 times? And in a nutshell, I pretty much just take A Good Day to Die Hard as like the Die Hard 2 of this new trilogy, which means whenever Die Hard 6 comes out, I'm simply hoping that it's at least on par with Die Hard 3 or Die Hard with a Vengeance. That's why I don't entirely loathe this film, but it's still pretty terrible, and it's just unexcusable that the Die Hard franchise has been reduced to this. And that leads me to number 1, and unquestionably, this is not just the worst film I saw this year, this is the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, and that is movie 43. I did an entire rant on this movie, so I'm not going to go too into depth because it's been almost an entire year since I've seen this movie, but pretty much this movie is the single worst movie I've ever seen because it has no decent purposes except to make a bad movie. Now, I've already did research, and I've actually saw a couple of videos of other people that also did research on this film, and I know the stories about how Hugh Jackman was doing this for a friend, for a favor, and how other actors were being drawn to this film because certain actors were also in it, and how they were moving to certain locations just so they could film certain scenes. Bottom line, movie 43 is the worst film because all the people involved in this film, their only purpose was not to entertain, it was simply to make the worst movie of all time. And to make it cheaply and without any heart. Now there's a difference between having a bad movie that has terrible dialogues, terrible storyline, terrible everything with bad actors or not known actors, but to actually use actors that have talent and have been in a series of great films I've truly enjoyed, made me even hate it that much more. And it hurts me more that I actually had to pay to go see this. I mean, if I wish I could have gone back in time and watched this movie illegally, and if I had done it that way, maybe I wouldn't have hated this film as much. With that, those are the top 10 worst films that I saw this year in 2013. And I really would like to know, what were the top 10 worst films that you guys saw this year? Tell me in the comments down below, and if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to check me on my future movie, video game reviews, and topic videos like this one. You can also press one of the extra links in the description down below to follow me on Twitter or friend me on Facebook, and I will be sure to friend you and follow you back. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.